Welcome to the Inforonics Supportcast, bringing you insight and tips from the world of customer, technical, and infrastructure support. Inforonics Supportcast starts now.
Welcome back to the Inforonics Supportcast Weekly. I'm Matt Hooper.
And I'm Ted Wilbur.
Ted, last week we talked with Scott about metrics and how important those are in enterprise-wide.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of things we have to think about when we react to this information, but sometimes it's just too much information.
That's right. And across an enterprise of hundreds of servers, hundreds of devices with possibly hundreds of monitoring points and configuration items per device, you can really get overwhelmed by the amount of data that's available. And that's why it's important to have automated systems that are looking at that data for you and analyzing trends and calling important items to your attention so that the important things bubble up in the sea of data that's coming at the people that are monitoring and managing these systems.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was hoping to do on this Supportcast is really take it down a notch, because IDLE gives us some guidance around event management, and it's pretty good, but it doesn't get nearly pragmatic enough for people to understand how to structure their events, how to control their events, and this is a very challenging thing. You know, we have lots of different ways we look at events and availability,
right?
Capacity.
Absolutely. So, and within each device, there's so many different things to look at, and the monitoring that you have to put in place for each different type of thing that you're looking at is different. So you have to pay a lot of attention to what am I looking at? Am I getting good information, or am I getting false positives? How can I tune the data that I'm watching so that it's important to me and I'm not just looking at everything and being overwhelmed?
So this term false positive, you hear it all the time with monitoring. What does it mean?
Well, I'll give you an example. So we saw a client that had implemented their own monitoring system, and what they had done is they used a product that automatically configures itself, so it goes out and it looks at all of the servers and devices that you have. And one of the things it did was it auto-discovered the various network cards that were in the servers.
Okay.
And that's great, except that many of those network cards are not connected to anything.
Okay.
So they are all red. So you pull up the screen showing all your servers. All your servers are showing red now because they all have one or more network interfaces that are in an alert condition because of this auto-discovery that took place. So you have to really go in and refine that so that when you look at your screen of devices and it's telling you, hopefully, what you need to take a look at, what's a problem right now, you're not seeing everything that's red. You're only seeing the things that are really having a problem. So you have to really go in and tune that data after the discovery has taken place. Absolutely.
You have faults that are faults, and they're acceptable to your operating environment. It's just a condition of the way that you architected your systems or what's running. So when we think about what generates that alarm at the end of the day, you've got thresholds you have to set.
Right.
And all of this is driven off of polling frequencies.
Yep.
So you may be checking it so frequently that it may fail, but it may fail within a condition of a number of times it's acceptable to fail, right?
That's right. That's right. And that's all part of tuning the monitoring implementation. Once you've got it in place, there may be times of day when you don't care about the alerts as much as others. There may be things going on. You know that your backups are taking place, and so maybe the CPU is going to be high on systems that are getting backed up, so you're not alerting on that during those times. It's really a constant thing that you have to do to make sure that you're getting good information and looking in the right places when there are real problems and screening out the things that aren't problems. It's a constant thing that happens when you're managing a monitoring system.
So time of day is a big thing then. When you said when you're running backups, certain things, we would expect the network maybe to be saturated at night. But again, not causing a business condition.
Exactly.
A CPU and maybe memory might be higher. Again, not causing a business condition. Of course, you have to watch to make sure that the backup completed. So it's not just network devices or pinging servers or things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Application functionality, whether it's internal infrastructure applications like backups or antivirus or security scans or whatnot, but also customer-facing application functionality as well. So again, it could be stuff for infrastructure or stuff that's more obvious to the business that you have to take a look at.
So what do we do then if you're monitoring all these applications and all these servers and all these networks, but if one network device goes down, aren't you going to generate hundreds of alarms off of the things that are attached to that network?
And that's a great point, Matt. That's a great point. So a big part of being able to tune your monitoring system is be able to put in place the dependencies that exist within the environment. So it may be on a single server, there may be a dependency that, if a particular service is broken, multiple alerts are related to that, and you want to just highlight the service and screen out the other alerts that are dependent on that service, so that when the alert goes off, you've got less alerts that are cluttering up and you're impacting your triage, and really directing the people who are handling that event to go to the right place and take care of it as quickly as possible.
So the suppressing of those alarms is extremely important, built on these dependency models.
Right.
And even the display of the information to really, ultimately the goal is to get to root cause as quickly as possible, right?
That is the goal.
Flip that switch back on, get that thing back up and running, and restore business service.
Right.
So a dashboard that can tell you your top worst problems or things like that, valuable, right?
Absolutely, and that's another tool that we use here. So we have a top 10 report for each of the various implementations, so that you can, in a reactive way, go and look and see, what are the things that are generating lots of alerts, how can I attack those things and try to get them off of that top 10 list. And the other thing that's maybe a little bit more proactive is capacity planning and trend analysis, where you're looking at utilization across the enterprise and identifying those items where the utilization trends are over a certain threshold. So, and the threshold may be different depending on what metric you're looking at, but maybe things that are tracking high on CPU or tracking high on disk utilization or memory utilization, whatever it happens to be. And you want a system to go through and call those out to you. It's one thing to have the graphs and trending in place in a system. It's another thing to have somebody have to go through and look at hundreds of those graphs and pick out the ones that are showing a problem.
Right.
You can do that in a programmatic way and have essentially alert on trends that are happening, so that in fact it's a proactive alert. You're being alerted that something is going to go wrong in the future, as opposed to depending on someone, a busy administrator looking at all the various graphs that you have implemented in your environment.
Right. And even though we have a call center and a customer support center, and we get paid for taking those calls, our mission is to never let that call happen.
Absolutely. Right. That's right. So you want to be as proactive as possible and really get in front of resource utilization before it becomes a problem.
Right. And that's really the ultimate value. But when you're talking about this, it makes me think about all these people out there on the Twitter sphere and all these other blogs talking about how useless configuration management systems are. Could you even imagine trying to do this without some type of configuration system that allows you to map these dependencies and what each of these items are and build the dynamics into the tool?
There's really no way to do it. And you can spend a tremendous amount of time if you don't have confidence in that system. So you have to build the system, and then once you've done, you've invested so much time into it, you need to keep that maintained, and you need to be able to have confidence in that data. That's really the only way to know what is dependent on what other piece in the environment, so that you have a thorough understanding of your environment, and you can take action as quickly as possible. So it all comes back to presenting the right data to the people that are going to correct problems. So you get problems corrected either before they happen or as quickly as possible after they happen. And I really think a centralized CMDB is absolutely critical for that. Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of having that CMDB be very, very tightly linked to the monitoring system. Yeah. So I know in our environment and every environment, your monitoring system, that's the first thing that gets updated. A new device comes in, a device goes out, something changes, you miss an alert, and you say, well, I'm going to go put that alert in, something happened, I didn't catch it, I'm going to update it. So your monitoring system is always the place where it gets the most attention and is most current with what you have in your environment. And that way you can be confident that the data that you've got in your CMDB really does reflect what you have in the enterprise.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's like a patient in a hospital room, where that patient is, what monitoring tools are connected to them, who's going to be alarmed if that patient's health starts to go south. Has to be a trustworthy system.
Absolutely.
Lots of energy, lots of focus around that. And if we treat our critical corporate assets the same way, that becomes reliable data, and we can always pull in and out of it for any other types of information we want. Because we've talked about the instrumentation, whether it's at the network level, the hardware level, the operating system, even if antivirus is running or not running, application services, all these different layers, that's still just collecting the data and some of the information, but our real value is in translating that into knowledge for reports.
Absolutely, it's a great point. So you mentioned a couple of things there. So one of the things we do, we'll look for certain things to be running on every machine, whether it's antivirus or or whatever, you name it, the backup program. And you can find out, okay, well, I'm rolling out a new antivirus package. If I'm looking on all my servers to make sure that that package is there, I can tell right away from my CMDB what systems I've done and what systems are yet to be done, and I can attack that rollout by using that data. And there's a lot of other things you can do with it too. So you can get reports on SLAs. So how am I doing versus my uptime for certain application functions, or how well am I doing with regard to the speed with which a particular function is coming back to the end user. All of that information
How quickly
should
are
be
we
available.
getting back to fixing that, right?
That's another one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You send the alarm. How rapid do we respond to that alarm to restore that resolution?
Absolutely. That's right.
Because as an outsourcer, that's pretty critical for us. We're measured on that. We're benchmarked against that. Now thinking about the long-term trending of this data and how we can even help from a capacity standpoint, proactive measures, all that's super valuable. But where else are we going in the future? What's the next big step for us with our solutions, and how are we trying to even be one step ahead of our clients?
Well, probably one of the next things that we're getting ready to roll out, it's in development right now, is a kind of a help yourself downtime mode. And by downtime mode, I mean setting up a time when alerts are suppressed because some type of maintenance is taking place. This is a great thing to do because it keeps your help desk or your service desk from getting bombarded with alerts when maintenance is taking place. And you may have regular maintenance windows, everybody does, and you can program those in advance, but there may be something that comes up on a more of an emergency basis, so you're making a change outside of the normal windows, and you want to be able to suppress those alerts. And allowing our clients to do that on the fly through the web portal is a big thing for them in our environment, so that way they don't have to call up and have downtime put in place, or essentially live with the alerts that come out. They're able to take action on their own whenever they want in order to suppress those alerts.
So that's fantastic. So one of the complaints or concerns with people when they're outsourcing is, I lose control. Here, we're getting ahead of that curve by enabling them to actually have the control. So if they're going to do preventative maintenance, if they're doing some kind of release, if they're going to, like you said, do some kind of break emergency fix, they can reduce those alarms. Also, too, it allows them to better tune their availability metrics, because if we're in a maintenance mode and we got to take a system down to do preventative maintenance, we don't want to get the impact.
That's right. That's right. You don't want that counting against you, especially, as you say, if it's preventative maintenance, it's something that you're doing something proactive. Certainly shouldn't count against the client's SLAs.
Yeah. Now, how about the correlation of this information? You've talked to me before in the past about the templates that we're starting to build. I find that very exciting, where we've got certain types of systems, and we pick out the templates, and we're able to more rapidly deploy implementations.
Yep. So that's another thing that we've built into our system. So we have templates for various types of devices that are being monitored. So network switches have various things you have to look at. Firewalls have different set of things you have to look at. Windows servers have something else you have to look at. Linux servers, it's all different, and so you can group types of devices together, and then with a push of a button establish the pretty deep monitoring for that particular type of device, and then you go back and you can tweak it after that to really get the granularity you want. But it gives you a very rapid rollout of a lot of known points that you need to monitor for various types of devices.
This has been fantastic. It makes me think back to some of the times that I've said to folks, just go monitor that.
Right.
That's really easy.
Yeah.
Not so easy.
It can be hard, and what you don't want to do is get caught in that trap where you're constantly going back and saying, well, I didn't catch that, I got to catch it now. And you really, monitoring is the key to making an IT organization look like they're on top of what's going on.
Yeah. And at the same time, we want to keep Duracell in business, paging all people. Well, maybe I don't page anymore. Maybe we use text messaging or whatever we use. But right, you want to make sure it's accurate, we can trust it, and so forth. Well, this has been fantastic. Next week, we're going to tackle the topic of is dynamic SLAs, which you talked about, setting those self-service provisioning, really controlling those SLAs. Join us again next week. Thanks, everybody. I'm Matt Hooper.
I'm Ted Wilbur.